Hello and welcome to Dire Consequences here on Unprecedented TV, and I'm Claire Dyer. This is the space where we speak openly and honestly and bravely about the issues that are too often pushed into the shadows. Mental health, domestic abuse, sexual abuse, the heartbreaking lack of support that so many people face across the UK. Here on Unprecedented TV, I am committed to giving a voice to those who have been silenced, overlooked, or dismissed. This show is about truth, empowerment, and shining a light where it's most desperately needed. But today, I am actually truly honoured to be joined by an incredibly powerful advocate and a woman whose work has transformed countless lives. She will soon be bringing her brand new show. It's going to be called Heart and Soul to Unprecedented TV, and today we will be exploring the passion, purpose, and the deeply personal experiences behind it. This lovely lady is Marilyn Hawes. She is the CEO of Freedom from Abuse. So welcome to the show, Marilyn.
Well, thank you, Claire, for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And I just thought it'd be a really kind of good idea now that you're going to be joining the Unprecedented team. Good luck.
Yeah.
You're going to need it. We've a brand new show, and I was thinking about this today. I absolutely love that title, and I feel a little bit jealous, Marilyn. Because...
No, listen, I'm jealous of you because I see your show and I think, I'd love that because, you know, if you watch me on media, what I like about the chance of doing this is that for 20 odd years, I've done an awful lot on media, and I come across as a really hard bitch, I think, because I have to be strident, because I've had to talk about people like Hugh Edwards and Gary Glitter and all these other people that are paedophiles and the rape gangs and Sadiq Khan and all these other people that are utter creeps. And
it's a horrible world, isn't it, Marilyn?
Sorry.
It's a horrible world.
It is a horrible world, but I want to sort of tell people that there is still hope. You can still survive and come through this. But I mean, he was that Hugh Edwards there? Yes, I used to admire him for his ties and the way he did this double Windsor knot. But I think I came out, it actually went viral. I went on GB News and I said he's a slimy little toad. And oh my gosh, it went absolutely everywhere. And one of my ambassadors is Peter Garsden, and I'm going to get him on my show as well. He is always winning Child Abuse Lawyer of the Year. I've known him for years. And when he saw me say that, I don't know where it came from. I went, oh, he's a slimy little toad. And he rang me afterwards. He said, next time I'm in court, do you think I could say, now listen, Mr. So-and-so, you slimy little toad?
You started off by talking about all the evil, horrible little vultures and creatures there are out there. But I wanted to ask you, because when I say about jealous, I love the title Heart and Soul, because I always say to people that I want to reach you in your heart and your soul. You know, I don't believe that everyone actually has a soul, but you can normally tell, you know, in the first few seconds if somebody is reachable or not. So what made you come up with that title, Heart and Soul? What's the story kind of behind that for you?
Horse tea and lack of sleep. And we bounced around, Lambert and I were bouncing around, what we should call it. And we came up with Soul Doctor, and I thought, no, not really. I don't know. I mean, I'm not religious, but I'm
a DJ.
Sorry.
It reminds me a little bit of a DJ.
Yeah.
And then
it came up with Dr. Soul. I like the bit soul because I you know, that appeals to my spirituality. And I don't know why. Do you know, honestly, Claire, I used to sleep at night, and now I'm waking up at 3 o'clock every morning thinking about Unprecedented. And I don't know, when I was a music teacher, I used to write all the concerts at 3 in the morning. There's something about my metabolism that 3 in the morning, and oh no, here we go again. And it's like a blinding sort of light moment. I went, oh, I know, heart and soul, because I do believe in my heart that you need to feed your soul and you need to feed your spirituality, and that is what's lacking in society. So
I just say that. I believe that what is actually happening is it is a spiritual war. It's an attack on humanity.
100%.
people are losing, I keep saying this, I say it probably a million times, people are losing their sense of compassion,
Absolutely.
their empathy, people becoming, the apathy is really, really bad. And I think we're slowly becoming desensitized. So like with Hugh Edwards, people aren't shocked anymore. They're
Well,
just
I'm not. Well, no. What I'm shocked about is that people are shocked. I mean, I always say, I mean, I've done this for 23 years, and I always say, you know, I'll never be shocked again. And I'm always shocked that I'm shocked. And I'm not ever immune to it, but it's gravity of human nature. And I think if we are made of mind, body, and spirit, and the moment you negate spirituality, what are you? You're just. I think society today suffers from iitis. Oh, that's not me, though, is it? Yeah, iitis. Look at me. What about me? I don't want to help anyone anymore. I don't want to step out of my comfort zone and be a little bit uncomfortable because I'm helping someone, and that's obviously not true of everyone. But I also feel, you know, where are the spiritual leaders in this country? They're absent. They are so audible by their silence. It's astonishing how silent they are, and there's no leadership to guide people and make them think about spirituality. I think it's really sad, and I actually think, because with spirituality comes empathy, comes respect, comes stepping into somebody else's shoes and go, hang on a minute, how must that feel? And I do a lot of work with training NHS students in the lived experience of, I mean, oh God, I mean, I cannot believe that not that's the trauma, the sadness, everything in my life has been extraordinary, but I don't give it respect because I'm not going to be defined by that. I'm not going to be broken by it. I have been broken by it when my 3 children were abused, 3 of my 4 children, by my best friend, the head teacher, who I'd been friendly with for 17 years and didn't see what he was doing because I wasn't trained properly in the education department about it. But I thought, no, I'm not going to be defined. Whatever. I've always thought, people say, oh, I haven't been persecuted. I haven't been persecuted. I think everyone is here for a purpose. And I do honestly feel that things have happened to me because I have been given a sort of strength to go, well, okay, I've been sent this. How can I change mine? So I was brought up a Catholic, right? I am not one now. But, you know, I had a lovely priest. I don't see him anymore because he actually became gay. And well, he was gay and then had to leave. But he's a lovely, lovely man. And he said to me, I can't believe the stuff that comes at me. And I was this because I've done Freedom from Abuse, my child abuse charity, preventing abuse. I've done it for 20 years. And then when I was going to do something good, the car would break down, or there'd be a flat tire, or I'd wake up with a raging temperature and couldn't get there. And he used to say to me, you know, not being funny, darling, he said, the more good you do, the more you'll get.
Do you know what? Listening to you talk, you kind of actually, it really touched my heart because I kind of thought how similar we are. Like your thinking is very similar to mine in everything that you were just saying. And you know, I think for a lot of people, well, I know for me, again, I can look back at my life and there's a lot of trauma there. And I think that I look at my life now and it's still not easy by far. In fact, for me personally, I'll say it's quite hard, especially with my health. But I feel that I was supposed to go through all of this because this is my purpose.
Absolutely right.
I know myself
the other day was what I did. Was it like sort of what was the word he used? I can't remember. I can't remember the word he used. But my word was saying, well, you know, when I set up Freedom from Abuse, it was my coping skill to overcome the terrible trauma. I felt like I honestly felt like I had gift wrapped my children and handed them over to a paedophile. And I did everything as a mum. I mean, my ex-husband was a nightmare. He would be down the pub, he'd never come home. I was bringing up 4 children under 5. I had twins. I'd lost 4 children. I lost my first baby when I was pregnant because of his well, anyway.
Can you openly talk about this?
how can I talk about it? Because it's important for other people to be able to relate to it. That, you know, this man that I was married to. So let me just tell you, and I don't know whether I can use certain language here, but I can say F without saying the word. But we've been married 4 years, right? And I fainted on the squash court. Oh, that's weird. And my periods were also a little bit hickety-picklety and all that. But we've been married 4 years, we had a lovely house and all that. And I fainted on the squash court, and I went to the doctor, and he said, "Oh, you're 3 months pregnant." I went, "What? Good grief." I went, "Wow." So I rang him up and I said, you know, I've got some news to tell you. Now, he knew I'd fainted. He knew I was going to the doctor. I said, "I've got some really exciting news to tell you." Now, anyone with half a brain would think, you know, I said, "I'm going to get steak and some wine tonight, because then we didn't know that you shouldn't drink if you're pregnant." And, and so I did all that, and we had the meal. I can still see him now. And we went into the living room, and I said, so he said, "What does he want to say then?" And I said, "Well, we're pregnant." And I can still see it now. He looked at the French windows with his hands in his pocket and looked out into the garden, and he said, "You are an effing cow. Get out my effing life. I don't want the effing child." And that was like a knife in my heart.
I had that, but not to that extreme.
But then he phoned me every day. Wake up in the morning, tell me that. Lunchtime, he'd phone me, tell me that. Evening, he'd tell me that. Day after day after day. And I got to about 5 or 6 months pregnant, and I was really frightened about how this baby, how would this survive? And then the baby died inside me, and it was all proven that it was to do, what it was to do with was, they could prove that the cortisol that is caused through trauma there was nothing wrong. There was a little boy. There was nothing wrong with the baby at all, but the cortisol had crossed over into the placenta and into the baby, and it was too much for the baby. And that was all on my medical notes. So I was taken into hospital, and wait for this, and it still happens today, Claire. I was put in a ward with 3 other women who were expecting their baby the next day, when I was going to have to give birth to a dead 6-month-old baby. And that still goes on today.
Yeah, I know.
And then someone said to me, one of the nurses, and this still goes on today as well, "You can have another one." I went, "But I wanted this one."
Yeah.
I wanted this one. And we got home, and my sister, which I didn't talk to for the last 10 years, and now we're talking again. Now that's a different issue, but she came up to look after me, and I didn't know that this geezer that I married had, it was a total charmer, street angel, house devil. How many people have got that in their life? And that's what I want to do on a domestic abuse. You know, people need to know, teenagers need to know about toxic relationships. 100%. You know, what's the difference? How do you notice it? How do you deal with it? But I walked through the door having just had this horrendous, delivery of a dead child, put it that way. And walked through the door, and my ex-husband, clearly he had OCD, but no one knew what it was then. And she shouted out, "Oh, I've just done the roast dinner, love. I don't have a gravy boat." Oh, for fuck's sake. Stick it in the measuring jug. And he kicked me in the back as I walked through the door. And I had just come out of hospital. And so it went on and on and on. But then see, I don't think people don't realise, because I was brought up a Catholic, and that's where religion gets in the way. You know, you sort of think, "Oh, I said for better, for worse. I said for life." And when I talked to this lovely priest of mine, and I said, I don't see anywhere. I don't understand when they say "till death us do part." How do you know that's the death of the? Why can't it be the death of the relationship? And he said to me, "That's exactly how I interpret it, because you look at the marriage vows when those were written all those years ago. People didn't live past being 45, so you would never have had a silver wedding."
But the problem is, in today's society, we have got teenagers that aren't religious. They're not already married, and yet they are falling into the trap of narcissistic relationships.
Oh,
But you've only got to take a look around what has been happening around the world for the last 5 years, what our own government are using the same grooming, psychological tactics. You've always been there. And we still have people, across this country still falling for it. So it's hardly any surprise, and it's really in our faces now. And I think it's hardly any surprise that really we are actually seeing a generation of boys that are using emotional blackmail and tactics.
Absolutely, it's coercive control and gaslighting.
Yeah. And girls growing up, from the ages of 11, 12, 13, 14 into their teenage years, thinking that this is normal relationship behavior because they don't know any different. And I feel as strongly about this as you do, because I've even been into my own school and said, you really need to highlight this, because we have a whole generation of boys that are narcissistic and a whole generation of girls that think that this is normal. And it is.
Claire, 100%. So I do a course. All my courses have titles because I think otherwise it's about child abuse. So the one I do in schools with teenagers from age 14 upwards is called Beauty or the Beast. So are you going out with a pig or a diamond? And the kids don't know. And I explain it to the girls that there's a wonderful word in the English language called no. And the girls will say, oh, because so many of the young boys, I mean, if you knew the number of youngsters that watch pornography, I mean, and we are not talking about ladies' boobs and bits. You are talking about unbelievable gut-wrenching stuff, right? And you've got children of, I think it's 1 in 4 children of 10 and 11 are watching this on their phones. And this is from Ofcom, and 1 in 3 children from 11 upwards. And I'm not going to say it here. I could, but I'm not going to, because I think that's a different show. If you knew what they were watching, you would want to vomit, and you can't unsee what you've seen. And so it becomes normality. And so the boys are thinking, oh, this is what we do. And I've actually said to the boys, 14 years old, why do you, I'm not being funny, but I'm not a prude, obviously, but why are you watching it? And they go, oh, well, and it's true, sex education is rubbish. I said, I know it is. And teachers in your school shouldn't be teaching it. If I go in and I teach them whatever it is, I leave. I don't have to walk down the corridor with someone saying, ooh, Mrs. Hawes said this to me today. Ooh. You don't have to go through that. And I have sat through courses in schools about the internet, about relationships, about you know what. And I'd rather stick pins in my eyes. Like, the kids must be so unbelievably bored.
Do you know what I think the other problem is as well? Is it's that setting by example. I actually went to Met Engage last night for my area, and it made me angry because it was obviously open to the public, and it was all about, it felt like lip service to me. And all I could sit there, so Mark Rowley was there, I might add, as well.
Oh.
Yeah, and all I could
you only needed to be matches up with the other bookend called Sadiq Khan, didn't they?
Well, you know what my question was? My question actually was pinned right there. When are you going to hold to account your own police officers? Because this is the thing, you said, again, we just had Hugh Edwards. All of these people, high-profile people, people in a position of power, police officers, and they're getting minimal sentences. It's not, as I say, it's set by example and lead by example. And actually, even for me as a grown-ass adult, I'm not seeing that leadership. I'm not seeing that example being set at all. So you're constantly counteracting it. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think the thing is as well is that I do get really fed up. I mean, I upset, really, rather than fed up, upset that are so many women that I meet through my work that hate men. And I think that's ridiculous. I don't like the word hate anyway, but, no. I mean, I feel passionate that men and boys are ignored. Do you know what? To tell me this, how many so we got women's refuges, right, all around the country. How many refuges for men do you think there are in the country?
Do you know what? It's not, I have to be honest and say, I've not thought about it. Go on, tell me. It's going to be none.
Two.
Wow.
Two. Because and I want to bring men out of the shadows to and boys. You know, when I do this, it's what is extraordinary is when I do this domestic abuse course, Beauty or the Beast, right? You would be amazed at the number of boys that come forward and say about these atrocious, vile women, that girls that are acting out extraordinary. I mean, I was talking to a barrister about 3 years ago, and he showed me this photograph of this girl, and she was about 5'3", absolutely gorgeous, long blonde hair, stunning. And she said, I said, she's the one that's being prosecuted. He said, yeah. I went, what's she done? Oh, she's just pushed her boyfriend through a plate glass window and he's in intensive care. I said, what? What? And you would not have thought that she could have punched a lump of butter. But it's this rage that people have. And I've met so many men who are terrified of, if they come out and say something, that the police will laugh at them. A grown man being hit by a woman. You know, yes, and it happens. And then they're terrified that, and this, I've seen this time and time again, where women will go to court and fabricate that their husband, they had to do this to the house because their husband was abusing their child. Unbelievable. And the men then end up worrying about the contact with the children, worrying about people think they're not really a man. And I want to bring that out of the shadows to say we need to, and I want to get mankind on my show and support men that are struggling with this in the shadows and suffering. And it's not right. This is not a gender thing. This is about, as you rightly say, Claire, it's about narcissism. And every single abuser suffers from narcissism and hubris. Hubris, which is brazen, look at me, you know, adulation. It's just horrible. But you see it. The fundamental thing in any abuser is narcissism.
I always say, you know, it doesn't matter what your age is, your background, your class, your ethnicity. You're either a decent person or you're not. And when it comes to narcissism, it's male, female. It can be any age. It's almost mentality. You know, whether it's genetic or not, I don't know. But the one thing that all of these peak types will prey on, this type of person will prey on, is somebody who's vulnerable.
Every time.
And somebody who is probably more than likely empathic as well, because they will
always
will try and understand the behaviour and excuse it.
Well, my ex-husband was. I am empathic. I'm always thinking, oh, everything is my fault. Everything must be my fault. And if you've been brought up a Catholic, everything is your fault.
Yeah.
But you know,
also it's not good enough as well, Marilyn. Do you have that one? It's not good enough. I've got to do better. Or I've got to do more.
I still now have that problem. So if someone doesn't phone me, if someone doesn't email me, I default all the time to I'm not good enough, because my mum, it does go back to the early years. And when I'm training young parents, I always say to them, can you just think about opening your brain before you open your mouth? So my mother, the first thing I remember my mother ever saying to me was, you should be ashamed of yourself. I was 4 years old. I was just coming up to 4. I was 3 and a bit. It's my first memory of my mum. And we had this massive garden, and I have a great imagination of like playing imaginary games. And we had dogs, and they were my best friends, you know, and animals are, because animals don't hurt you. Animals don't betray you. And I overplayed.
You had my cat.
I forgot to go to the toilet, right? So I was only 3 and a bit, three and a half, something like that. And I can still remember what I was wearing. I had this like turquoise top and shorts with polka dots on, and I had pooed my pants, a little girl. And I can still see me now in that bathroom with my mother saying, you should be ashamed of yourself. And that was her mantra all my life.
And that
all my life, I used to bite my nails. I would eat. I looked anorexic, and then I don't anymore. But you know that those messages in your early years sit in the back of your brain. And we need to be better parents. So you won't believe this, Claire.
Well,
I was asked to write a course for Pakistani dads. And I called it Giving Your Children Wings. And it's about, when do you become a parent? Well, you become a parent as soon as you think about having a child. And what does that journey look like? And where is your goal 20 years on? And how do we get there? And and a couple of my colleagues actually delivered it over in Pakistan.
Wow. Well, and on that note, I'm going to stop you right there because we are going to go to a quick break with Tim Scott Uncancelled, which is obviously the news review that nobody should be missing. Another show here on Unprecedented TV. And that is the lovely Tim Scott back with Tim Scott Uncancelled here on Unprecedented TV. And I am here talking to the lovely Marilyn, or rather she's talking to me. And
I'm doing it.
I know you're talking to me.
I'm sorry. Am I talking too much? I'm sorry.
You're so bubbly. I mean, you know, I'm sitting here listening to you and there's a lot of things I can relate to. And your energy is just, you know, I was saying before the show, I don't know, how are you so happy and vibrant and bubbly?
Insanity. That's why, Claire, that's why my show is going to be called Heart and Soul with Mad Maz. My friends,
so that's
I'm known as Mad Maz.
That's the full title. Yeah, because I'm sitting here doing what you've just said, thinking, oh my God, like I'm so miserable. And look at us.
You're not. I watch your shows and I go, oh, well, I said to Lambert the other day, I've got to get more likes and hits than she's got. We got a competition going on now, Claire.
I know I'm very competitive, and I must admit I've been trying to be taking a little bit of a break, but it's not been working too well for me. But you just mentioned your show, which is what we want to talk about. So it's actually Heart and Soul, which is absolutely lovely because I love that term, that slogan, with the Mad Maz. So,
Claire,
I want you to tell me about your show, how you see your show going, who you want to have on, and what it is that you want to achieve through doing your show.
Right. So I want to look at things that are life issues that people don't want to talk about. That, I want to bring ordinary people on, but I also want to go up some notches to have the experts on as well. So I have this wonderful friend and colleague called Rachel Fairhurst, and she is in America. She used to be here in England. Global, brilliant person. So we're going to do one on about, it's so important that we understand early year trauma and how we can avoid it, and the dire consequences, the consequences of it. Because the consequences of it are huge. And then she wants to, because she talked to me tonight she lives near Ozark. Oh, have you ever seen that place? It's amazing. Have you watched the episode? Have you watched the series Ozark?
I have watched Ozark, yes.
Oh, that's beautiful. And she lives near there. And she said, she called me tonight and she said, I want to do one on what creates a paedophile. And I know, but she's the expert on it. I know on layman's terms, but she's the expert on it. And she wants to, I want to do a separate show on that. And I want to be,
really interesting,
better understanding.
That was the same. That would be really interesting because, I mean, the thought of actually going into a mind of a paedophile, but even, going back to how do they even get to that point? What is it? Are they born like it?
No. They're not. It goes back to early year trauma. Honestly, truly, Claire, all this stuff, narcissism, everything goes back to the early year parenting that caused trauma. The damage to the brain in early years of any form of trauma, and we're all individual, we're all unique. So I mean, I could sort of I could just come up and say something. I could come up and say something to you really nasty and you could be destroyed, or you could turn around and say to me, F off. We're all individual. We all take different sensitivities.
This is what I was just going to say, for the people, that's the thing I don't understand, because they quite often say that abusers people that have been abused become abusers. And I I disagree with that, because I'm thinking, if you know the pain and trauma that you've gone through as a child or growing up being abused, you would want to literally do absolutely the complete opposite to make sure that you are
100%.
That I would have an understanding of what it is at that point in time that actually happens that makes you switch either one way or the other. Because I know for me, it's like I am constantly aware of myself, watch myself and everything I do and say, because I think I don't want to be anything like that. I don't want, it would scare the life out of me. And I look at the people that have gone, say, through the same kind of trauma or abuse, and ended up, say, abusing their own children or become, predators or paedophiles. I don't understand it. I'll be honest. I say that I can understand anything and I can get into pretty much most people's minds, but I don't understand that.
But this is why I started going into prisons, because when this happened to me, I can remember thinking, well, I was friendly with this guy for 17 years. What was it I missed? And then I realized that, I need to go and talk to these people. And people said I was bonkers. I was going into prisons and sat in a little room the size of a lady's toilet with a paedophile opposite me and having to ask him.
I can see why you did that. Because I can see why you did that. You needed answers. You needed to know you needed to know why you had missed it.
Exactly, because how could I have been fooled by this guy for 17 years? I just didn't get it, because I was brought up to the funny man in the park, and the weirdo. And when I was training with my teaching, we weren't even taught about what goes on in the family, And I found going in and talking, you can't shut these people up. They want to talk because they're proud of what they've done. They're not remotely remorseful.
Really?
I did that, and I went, oh, goodness me. And I'm scribbling it all down, And when I go in and see them, I haven't done it in several years now because of COVID. Stopped everything, and COVID is still going around and all of that. And but at the time I did it for sort of 2 or 3 years, and it was extremely illuminating at the level of denial and the level of I'm okay doing this. They will not cross over that line that they daren't, because that would make them, in their minds, a monster. And I actually sat with one guy, he was called Chris, and he drew this circle. And I said, can you explain it to me? Because I don't understand it. Can you just explain it? And I do always say when I used to go in, I used to say, right, Lily, I know what grooming is because I was groomed. If you think you're going to be clever, then there's a little button here, and you're going to be taken to your cell, and you're going to be put in solitary for a week. So think carefully about how you speak to me. And anyway, this guy, Chris, he was a nice chap. Because the thing is, when you go into prisons where there is because now they put them all in one prison, right? And it's eerily creepy. It's not like cell block 8 where they're all, it's incredibly quiet. It's eerie. And they're so polite. It's incredible. And this guy, he said, to draw this circle, and he said, well, it starts off with attraction, and then it goes into the grooming. Now, so the grooming I really liked, because the grooming, I get to say to myself how long it goes on for. How am I going to do it? When do I up the ante a bit? Or maybe I won't do it at all, because the idea is I don't want to be found out. And then it goes on a little bit further. And he said, the grooming is so powerful that to me is more attractive than the actual sexual act. Because if you are attracted to a child and you touch them a lot and you get turned on by it, without actually abusing them as such, because grooming itself is abuse, but it's now a criminal act now. Grooming with sexual intent is a criminal act. But he said, that's the bit I really like. I said, but hang on a minute, whoa. Why do you like it in the first place? And then he said to me, well, children like me, and they're kind to me, and I can respond to them. And I thought, and expand on that. Can you expand on that? And I've spoken to lots in their own all of them have been abused in some way as a child. It could be neglect, it could be physical abuse, it could be verbal abuse, and we all respond differently. Yeah. And some people can have all of that and they never abuse because they are resilient and they've got higher levels of emotional intelligence. And that comes into that play as well. And that is the trouble, that the trauma that changes the landscape of the brain disturbs your ability to progress emotionally into your sexual life, you know. So you're stuck emotionally in your childhood, and that's why you can relate to children. And believe me, I am not making excuses, but I wanted to understand the reasons, and those reasons are actually quite sad. And he went on to say, well, once after that, I went on a course. Oh my God, this is absolutely revolting. But I don't know what time. What time is this going out tomorrow? I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say it.
Morning.
I know. I better not say it because it might be a morning show.
It is morning.
No, I'm not going to say it then. I'm not going to say it because that would be wrong of me.
What I was going to say was that doing that must have been very mentally exhausting. And
it was exhausting.
Because as you said, you know, you were trying to understand why, but at the same time having to absorb that, you know, it's
I've always been
I can't find the words, but it's mentally, so and it hits you in your heart, it hits you in the pit of the stomach as well. It must have taken its toll on you, because not only you've gone through trauma, then you've gone through what's happened with your children, are your best friend, obviously grooming them, and then wanting to have that understanding, and then, you know, since then, that's kind of, it's really your life's work now, isn't it?
Well, but this is why for me now, I mean, I spent sort of like 20 years doing this in the front line. I mean, I love doing the media, and this to me, to join Unprecedented is to me a real honor, because I love doing the media. I just find with the way children are in schools sometimes now, they're so feral, they're so disrespectful, and the teachers aren't a lot better. I would never, when I was a deputy head, let children, you don't have to shout. I don't like shouty schools. I don't shout. I don't like shouting. That was something else my ex used to do. I want people in my life that are gentle, and I don't like shouting. And I go into schools and I think, why on earth do you think you're getting anywhere by yelling at these kids? It's just not right. And I don't want to go into schools anymore, really. I want to take all the stuff I know and all the experiences I've had, and I mean, I have some, don't get me wrong, I have had some amazing bits in my life as well, you know.
I'm just thinking, while you're saying all of this, you're talking about going into schools, you're saying about kids being feral and you know, going into prisons, and I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, it is now the everyday person, the person that's experienced, say, some kind of trauma or of any kind. And it just made me think about Courtney Barrett, been in Knives Saves Lives. You know, he's trying to get knives off the street. He supports bereaved families. It's mainly, you know, teenagers that have been victims of knife crime and have died. He goes into schools, he does talks, he does workshops, he does all of this for free. You know, you've got people up and down this country, but also globally, people like you, people like him. I mean, I don't go and try and educate people, I just try and gain awareness. But
you do it through your show.
But and I stand out on the street for 8 hours at a time. But you know, we're all doing this, and we've all started doing this not because it's our job, not because you know we're educated in that, but because we have the life experience and we care enough to want to try and make change. But my point about that is, we shouldn't have to be. The system, our public service, you know, it's failing massively. Our schools are failing, the police are failing, our NHS is failing, social services. I mean, you know, to me, it's just corruption everywhere.
Everywhere, without a doubt, everywhere. And I like, just two messages I actually say when I'm training NHS students is, and I do it the same when I'm training teachers. And I've made the same mistakes myself in the past, not knowing the impact of what you say. But, you know, if you're going to talk to a child who's in trauma and they can't sit still, so they're getting this fight and flight thing. Oh, Sam, sit down, sit down, sit down. No, Sam, sit down. well, Sam probably can't sit down because he's having some sort of a crisis. And it's getting teachers to understand why some children are not in that central avenue. Why are they? And that's the biggest question you can ask of yours is why? Why is that child behaving like that? Why? Yeah. Why? And looking into it, you know. And I there's no point in saying to that child, what's wrong with you? Because that child's in trauma. They're going to turn around and tell you to F off because there's nothing wrong with me. So why don't you try saying, what's happened, love? What's happened? You'll get a completely different response.
Yeah, because I say you can't treat every child the same. You know, especially
no,
for teachers.
We're all unique.
The 30 kids, what works for one is not going to work for another.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And people don't want to take that time. That's the trouble. And the other thing that I say to the NHS staff as well is the thing that's really is a red rag to me is when I think it's quite patronizing when people go, oh yes, I understand. Well, and I go, so you've been in my situation, have you? You can't say to somebody that's just got divorced if you haven't been, oh, I understand. You don't understand unless you've been there. So why not try saying, thankfully, I haven't been in your position, but can you help me understand? So I may be able to help you.
I do think, though, if you are, say, empathic or you're an empath, you know, I would say I can't understand, but I'll be honest, I can actually feel the pain. And I actually had that today with my friend. She's very upset about something, and as soon as she started to cry, I could literally feel the gut-wrenching pain that she was feeling instant. But I can't possibly understand what it is that she's actually going through because I've never been through it, but I could feel what she was feeling to an extent. I've had to learn with that to try and grasp, you know, how am I feeling certain energies and feelings? And it's very hard to protect yourself from that, especially if you want to be going out and helping lots of different types of people. And that's what I'm going to say about your show. How do you see your show going? What topics are you? Because we've talked a lot, obviously, about the children and about trauma and about abuse. What other topics do you want to cover? Because obviously you want to help everybody, don't you, Marilyn? Not me, anybody. So
I want to also talk to. My grandparents were farmers in the New Forest, and I feel really upset about the farming community. So I've got some farmers lined up, and the president, I think, of the National Farmers Union. So I'm quite keen on getting people at the top, but the people that are at the coalface. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And anything that comes on the news, and I think, that's something. And over the years, because I had to start from base zero, I think I'm quite adept at unraveling people and finding people and knowing how to work my way around the internet to ask the right questions of Google to find the results. And that's what I want to do. If something comes up and I think, now that's an interesting topic that people might like to hear a bit more about at grassroots, and at someone at the top. And I just truly, because I'm an educator, I totally, I love Nelson Mandela, and he said the best weapon we have to save the world is education. So I want to sort of try and help. I don't want to be, I'm going to teach you. I just want to.
You were saying
understanding.
You were going to be a little bit of an agony aunt. How's it going to kind of
work? Listen, Claire, I'm probably a pain in the backside. That's the agony.
But what's going to make your show kind of different from mine? I mean, obviously, I highlight different topics. I give people who aren't being given a voice. So I have the everyday person. I don't really have high profile people on. What's going to make yours different? Because you kind of actually.
I think I spent. I can so relate to you, because when I've seen your shows, I think, I'd like to have done that, because you are quite feisty out there, and I think I have spent so many years having to be so feisty in front of media. And I say, I'm sure people think I'm a hard bitch, and I'm absolutely not. But when I'm talking about things that really make me passionate, and I get, do you remember the little girl down in golly, she was killed brutally murdered by her father, a Pakistani little girl, just recently down in Surrey. And the Surrey council came out and said, oh, they apologised for the fact that the father, I can't remember the little girl's name now, she was an absolute darling. And the pain she must have suffered was just absolutely heart-wrenching. And I was getting in the car to go out that morning, and I had a call from GB News and said, oh, can you come on? I went, yeah, the results of the inquiry has come out. I went, well, I haven't read it. Well, when do you want me on? I went, now. So I had to go on. I hadn't done any, and I don't like going on any of these GB News, Talk TV, LBC, or any of it without I've done my prep. I like to have something in my back pocket that's going to be a bit different, that I thought, hang on, no one's asked that question. And I had to go on, and I actually ended up almost crying on the show, because it was partly out of frustration. And this guy in charge of Surrey Council apologised for this happening when neighbours had not reported the screams that they'd heard because they might be accused of being racist. Excuse me. And the whole thing upset me so much. And I said, you know, when the county council guy came out of Surrey and said, oh, he apologised, I went, he hasn't broken the dinner service, he's broken a kid's life.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you say
the other thing as well? Every form of abuse preys on silence in one way or another.
It's awful. And I want to be able to show the side. I am not really that person. I'm not a hard-nosed bitch. To be able to showcase that there is a softer side of me, and I am actually. I'm actually underneath that front that you see me on GB News and all these other shows. Underneath that, I'm mush. People go, oh, you're really confident. I'm not really confident, because my mum told me I was never good enough.
People think exactly the same about me. It's so strange talking to you.
I know.
There's quite a lot of similarities. I wouldn't sound quite as feisty as you, but yeah, people think the same. They kind of think I'm quite hard and I'm really confident, and I'm like, no, not at all. This is so out of my comfort zone. But like you, I feel like this is a calling. Like, I have to do this. Are you going to be doing, like, say, phone-ins or comments where you know people can actually interact with you on the show?
I hope so. What I don't want, Claire, is it to be random. So that's why I thought the other night at 3 in.m, my magic time, I thought, how can we make this more structured and more professional? And I thought, well, I know, if I say, say January the 6th, we're going to be talking about I don't know, farmers or whatever it is that's out there that might be interesting to people. And I just think it needs to be like a diary online, so people can see, actually, I think I might tune into that one. Do you know what I mean? So you don't get someone phoning in about, oh, I don't know, I'm a farmer, and then somebody who phones in and goes, I'm getting divorced, and somebody else has been sexually abused, and somebody else goes, you know. And I want to talk to people that also have, what's it like to lose a child? You know, what's it like to lose your parents? I mean, I know, you know, let people come out there, and just so you could have just ordinary people just sharing their grief. What does grief feel like? You know, I'm really excited about it, because I really want to go down a different path, a softer path. It's very different, and you know this, from being interviewed like I am with you now. And thank you so much.
It's actually easier being interviewed.
Well, I don't know, because I don't know that it is, because you've got to keep coming up with these open-ended questions, don't you?
Marilyn, shall I tell you what the real big difficulty is with interviewing someone? You have to slightly control your guest.
I know, I'm uncontrollable.
Yeah, and with that, I'm going to say, we've run out of time, Marilyn.
Right.
And that's the thing. You have to try and get it so that they don't veer off, that they cover everything that you want them to get out in 50 minutes, you know, so you feel like they've managed to say everything they've needed to say. So, yeah.
Claire, I think the trouble is, I have had years of going on main media where you get 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, 12 seconds if you were like me with the
if you're lucky.
12 seconds.
And I need to learn that I have an hour.
Yeah, well, you've had 50 minutes. Your time is now up, Marilyn. So to finish, give me I don't know, a sentence to sum up your show, or how you'll feel about your upcoming new show.
I feel excited about it, and I hope the title I've come up with is Heart and Soul. I'm hoping that's authentic about me, because I do have a heart and I do have a soul, and I am incredibly empathic, and I am incredibly sensitive, and I'm very easily hurt, and I understand those emotions. I don't think there's, oh God, I could write a book about my life and people will think that can't be possible. She must have been on drugs. But, you know, I want to give people hope that whatever you've gone through, you don't ever lose your hope. And that's what I want. And that's what I want. I haven't started. I mean, I can't thank you enough for your time tonight, because I've really loved it. And you might have been bored sick with me.
No, I'm really not. I'm not. But Marilyn, I am going to say, we're going to leave it at that, with you saying that you want to give people hope. I thought what you just said was absolutely lovely. It literally has, and it sounds really corny to say, but you have touched my heart and soul. And thank you for coming on.
You're very lovely. Thank you, Claire. Thank you.
So are you.
See you again soon.
I will do. And that brings us to the end of today's conversation with the lovely Marilyn. I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to her.
And mine to you.
Oh, you're still there.
I'm still. I know. I won't go away. I'm like.
Oh, you haven't gone. The studio needs to mute you, Marilyn. we need to mute you. I think we're going to have trouble with you, aren't we? I think you're going to be given a 2-hour show, Marilyn. She's going to definitely need 2 hours to discuss everything that she will need to talk about, because her life is very, very full. And you know, I do thank her. I thank her for her honesty, her courage, her lifelong commitment to protecting children and supporting survivors. And if you could feel through that screen how deeply she feels about this. So her new show, Heart and Soul, coming to Unprecedented TV very soon, I hope, and I definitely will be watching that. I actually can't wait. She's brought a smile to my face, and I think it's going to be set to open eyes, challenge systems, and create the kind of conversations this country desperately needs. So here on Dire Consequences, we don't shy away from the difficult truths. Unprecedented TV does not shy away from the difficult truths, because they matter and because people's lives do depend on them. So if today's discussion has affected you, or if someone you know does need support, please reach out to trusted organisations, or you can reach out to Freedom from Abuse. You can reach out to Unprecedented TV. I know I'm always listening, and I know Marilyn will always be listening. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for standing with us here at Unprecedented TV as we continue to push for awareness, accountability, and real change. Please like, subscribe, and share to build up Unprecedented TV. I'm Claire Dyer. Join me next time as we keep trying to shine a light where others will continue to look away. Thank you.